Hello guys, in this video we will make this currency converter application with the help of Jetpack Compose. So here in this application we can convert the currency at a real time. Like if I insert some value like 125, then it will give the converted value of 1.53, and also I can change the value of this currency by pressing on this drop down icon, and this bottom sheet will open. So from here I can select any one of the currency. So for now let's select this Brazilian real, and here we can see this has converted the value from Brazilian real to US dollar, and here we can swap between these values by pressing on this icon. So here we can see these values will swap, and also our app will support the offline mode. Like if I turn off the internet, then now if I try to convert this value like 120, then we can see our app is running smoothly in the offline mode also. And also if I close this application, and now if I start our application in the offline mode, then we can see our app will show this toast, check your internet connection. Despite that toast, and in the offline mode we can still convert our currency. Like if I try to type 400, then we can see we are converting our currency smoothly. And also our app will support the dark mode. So let's turn on that dark mode. And here we can see our app is in the dark mode and it is looking perfectly good. So this is the application we will design. So let's go to the Android Studio and create a new project with the name CoinSwap. So here I have created this new project. First we will go to this build.gradle project level file. Here I have used this Kotlin version 1.8.20, and also I have pasted this one more plugin ID for Dagger-hilt. And now let's go to this build.gradle module level file. Here I have pasted two more IDs, and we will use minimum SDK 21, and let's go down, and here we will use this Kotlin compiler version 1.4.6, and make sure you use this Compose compiler version and this Kotlin version which are compatible, because this Compose compiler version is tightly coupled with this Kotlin version. And here down below I have used this Compose BOM version, this version. And what this BOM bills of material means, so here we don't need to provide these Compose libraries version independently. So this BOM will give the versioning to these Compose libraries. And here we are using these three more libraries, and make sure you copy paste these dependencies from the GitHub repository. So let's close these two files and go to this main activity. So with the new project these codes will come. So let's delete these code. Now first let's locate where is this main activity. So let's go to this Java package and this com, and here this is our main activity. And in this UI package there is a package called themes. So here we will define the our colors and themes. So here in this project we will use two more colors apart from these default colors. So let's duplicate this value and add two more colors. So these two more colors we will use in our project. So now let's close this color file and let's go to this theme file. And here in this theme file we defined our theme. So here these are two values for color schemes. This one is for dark color scheme and this one is for light color scheme. So here we will use this primary color to that custom orange, and also for the light scheme we will use this custom orange, and in that light color scheme we will also define one more color value for surface variant, like this. And apart from these two color values we will use all the other values which are default by this color scheme. So let's go down, and here this is how we will define the theme. So with the new project all this code has come, and here this is how they are assigning the color of that status bar. Here they have given the status bar color to that primary color, but what we will do, we will use the color of that surface. Whatever will be the color of the surface, we will use for that status bar color also. This line is for that status bar's icons color. Since we are using this surface for light mode, we will give the value it to true. So what it will do, it will maintain the same color in the light mode and in the dark mode also. And now we can close this theme file, and now we can run our app one time and see if our app is working or not. Here we can see our app is working perfectly fine, and also we can see that status bar color is that of surface color. And now let's minimize this and this one also. Now first let's see the design of our screen. So this is our app screen we will design. So how we will design? First we will take a column layout. Column layout place its children above and below. So we will place all these elements in this column layout. And for this heading we will use this text composable. So let's go back to the Android Studio, and here this UI package we will rename it to presentation. So let's press shift F6 over it and rename it to presentation, and press this refactor. So here let's create a one more package named main screen, and also this main screen file. So here I have created this composable function called main screen for our screen. And in this composable function, first I have taken this column layout. It will be our parent layout for our screen. So here I have used this fill max size modifier. So what this fill max size modifier will do, it will take the full size of that phone's screen. And this padding, with the help of this padding, we will give some space. So I have provided this horizontal value to 16 dp and this vertically 18 dp. And in that column layout we are using this text composable for that text CoinSwap. And here I have used this fill max size. It should be fill max width. So with the help of this fill max width, it will take the full width of the phone's screen. And here we are using this text, and this text it will be cursive, and the font size I have provided 14 sp. And one thing we need to notice is that font size we need to provide in the sp unit, and for everything else we provide the dp unit. And here we are aligning it to center, and we are using the bold font. So let's use this main screen in our main activity, because from this main activity our code will start running. So let's use this main screen here. So now let's run our app again and see this much change. So here we can see our text is looking perfectly fine. So let's minimize it again and let's go back to that main screen. And now first let's minimize these imports, and here after this text composable, let's see the design first. So after that text composable, we will use card composable for these two cards, and in that card composable we will use the column layout. So let's go back and here let's take a card composable. So here I have used this card composable, and in that card composable I have used this column layout, because first it will be a row of that currency code and currency name, and then it will be a currency value. So these two items are above and below, that's why we are using this column layout. So let's go back to the design. Here we can see the row of this currency code and currency name is exactly similar to the row of that below card. So what we will do, we will create a separate composable function and we will reuse for both the rows of these both cards. Here after this, let's create one more composable function for currency row. So this is how we will make our currency row. What I have did, I have first taken a row layout. So what this row layout is, it means the children of its will be placed horizontally, means side by side. So here I will access this modifier through the parameter, and also I have provided this vertically alignment to center vertically. So these all children should be center vertically. Here first I have used this text composable, and after this I have used this icon button, and here we can see I have used this icon. So with the Jetpack Compose many icons also come. So how we can access? We can access through this icons class. So here first let's cut it this part and type dot. So here we can see it is showing default and a few more things like filled, outline, rounded, sharp, two tone. So what type of icon you need? So I provided that default one, and here when I press dot, so here we can see I can access so many icons with which they have come with the Jetpack Compose. So here I have used this arrow drop down, and here this content description means we need to provide that what this icon will do. So here I have provided this icon will open the bottom sheet. After this icon button, I have used this spacer. So what this wait 1F will do, so it will give the maximum space to this spacer. So whatever will be the space left between this icon and this text, so this spacer will take. So it will place this text of that currency name to that far right. And now let's use this currency row in our column. So here I have used that currency row and I have provided these some default values, and I have left this on drop down icon clicked as blank. We will provide this functionality further. And after this currency row I have provided this text and I have used this some default values. And also here we can see in this column layout I have used this horizontal alignment to end. So these two things should align through the end. So now we can run our app again and see this much change. So here we can see our card is looking perfectly fine. So let's minimize this and this one also. And what we will do, because second card will also exactly similar to the first one. So what we will do, let's take a copy of this card and paste it down. We only need to change this order of these two childs. So first we will use the text and then we will use that currency row for that second card. Now the next thing what we need to do, first let's minimize these two cards from here. Now let's go back to the design and see what we need to do next. Now the next thing, we need to place this swipe icon somewhere in between these cards. So for that swipe icon we will take a box and then we will make it circular here after these cards. So let's take a box. So like this I have used this box for that icon. Now we need an icon. So in those icons which come along with the compose, there was no icon for that swap. So what we will do, with the Android Studio also some icons come. So we will use those icons. So for that let's go to this resource package and here in this drawable package let's right click and new vector assets and let's click on this clip art. So this will open this dialog. So here we can see there are so many icons we can take from here. So we need the icon of that sync, this icon. So let's import this one and let's rename it to icon sync and let's press next and finish. So here we can see in this drawable package there is an icon called sync, and let's close this. And how we will access, we will access through this painter parameter, and here we will say painter resource and we will provide the id to r.drawable. And first let's import this r and then r.drawable.icon sync like this. And here in this box layout I have used this padding for giving only the start padding, and with the help of this click modifier we can change the shape of this box to circle shape, and this box will be clickable. So I have provided this clickable modifier and the background should be whatever is the color of that background in that color scheme. So this is how we access those color schemes, and in that box I have used this icon like this. So now we can run our app and see how icon has been placed. So right now we can see this is not we intended. So why this is so? Because we are using a column layout. So right now this column layout is placing these childs above and below, but we need that swipe icon somewhere in between these cards. So what we will do, we will place both these card in a box layout. What that box layout is do, that box layout place its children on top of one another. So for that, let's minimize this, and here let's minimize this box also. So first what we will do, we will take a box layout, and in that box layout the content alignment should be center. So whatever will be the content, it will be center. So what will be the content? First content will be a column of both these cards. So like this, but we also need some space between these cards. So let's take that spacer. So in that box layout, first this will be a column layout, and on top of this column layout we will use this swipe icon box layout like this. So this is how we will place that two cards and that swipe icon. So now we can run our app again and see the changes. So this swipe icon is placed in the center. So what we need? We need to keep the child of this box layout to center start, because this icon should be in the starting, and I have also provided that starting padding to 40 dp, so it will take the required space. So let's change it to center start, and let's run it again. So here we can see our both cards and that swipe icon is perfectly placed. Now let's minimize these two things, and now the next thing, let's see the design. So next thing what we need to do, we need to design this keyboard. This keyboard will be very simple. First we will create a single number key, then we will reuse that number key in that vertical grid. And after this currency row composable function, let's create one more composable function for that keyboard button. So here for that single number key, I have created this composable function. So here I have used this box, and in that box I have used this padding 18 dp. So this will give some padding between the box outline of that box and this text, and this clip will make that box into that circle shape, and that background color we will provide through the parameter, because that all clear button will be of different color and the other keys will be of different colors. And here with the help of this clickable modifier, this button will be clickable, and here content alignment, this will be center. So in that box layout I have used this text composable, and also this modifier, let's attach this to this one, and let's use this keyboard button after this box layout in a lazy vertical grid. So here I have taken this lazy vertical grid, and with the help of this modifier we will provide the padding only horizontal padding 35 dp, and here we need to provide the number of columns. So we will make the number of columns fixed 3 columns, and in this vertical grid we need to provide the items, list of items. So first let's go above, and here let's create a list of all the keys. So these will be our keys. So let's use this list of keys in that vertical grid. Here let's use that keys, and for every key we will use that keyboard button. So here we are using that keyboard button for every key in that keys list. Here I have used this aspect ratio to 1f. What this aspect ratio will do? It will make the key height and width of equal size. And here I have provided this background color. If the key will be equal to C, then I will provide the color of primary. Otherwise, it will be a surface variant color, and we will provide the functionality of on click later. So now let's run our app and see this much change. So here we can see our keyboard is also looking perfectly fine. Now one more thing we need to change is that now we can see all the children of this column layout is placed in the top. So what we will do, we will change the vertical arrangement differently. So here let's change it to, so we are using this space around. So what this space around will do, let's press Ctrl Q, and this will give some space before the first child and also after the last child, and in between all these child it will give equal space. So let's run our app again and see this change. So here we can see now it has arranged all these childrens perfectly fine. So let's minimize this and also this. Since we have designed our screen, now let's move on to what architecture we will follow in our project. So here we will follow clean architecture. So what this clean architecture is, it is a design philosophy where we organize our code in such a way that the system can easily understand, develop and maintain. So here in this clean architecture, we typically divide our whole system into 3 layers. First one is data layer. So this is the layer we keep all our data related operations like fetching the data from the remote API or local database and interacting with the database. And another is this domain layer. So in this domain layer we keep all our business logics, like we keep all the models of our business and all the rules like sorting and these things. And the third layer is this presentation layer. So this is the layer that the user interact with. So in our CoinSwap app, this is the layer we will keep our screens in, and this is how we will structure our whole app. First we will make these 3 packages: data, domain, presentation. In this data package we will create these 3 packages: remote, local and this repository. In our app, we will get the remote data from this free currency API, and for the local storage, we will use this room library, and there will be this repository. So here we will interact with these APIs and this local storage. Then there will be this domain package. In this domain package, we will create two packages, model and repository interface. This model package will consist this currency rate data class and this repository interface. Here we will create our interface of this currency repository. And in the last this presentation package, we will keep our apps screens and theme file. So let's go to the Android Studio and create these packages. In this CoinSwap package, let's create two packages more, data, and then there will be a domain. Presentation package is already there. So here let's create three more packages. And in this domain package, again there will be a model package. So this is how we will structure our whole app. Now the next thing, we will look into this remote data source. In our app, how we will get the remote data? We will get through the API of that free currency API. So let's go to that website. So this is the website free currency API from where we will get the remote data. So here you can create your account. So when you will successfully create your account, you will be redirected to this dashboard. So here we can see this is our API key we will use in our app to fetch data from this API. And let's go to the documentation of this API. So let's click on this documentation. So here we can see these are the endpoints. So let's click on this latest exchange rates. So here we can see this is a GET request because we need some data from this API, and this is the URL we need to use for fetching the data. So let's make a request to this URL. So for that we need to use this URL, and then we need to add the API key in the URL also, which we get from this API. So here I have made this request. So this is the data we will get. So here I am using this JSON formatter extension. That's why it is looking this beautifully. So if you are not using, then you will see the data in this way. So now let's go to the Android Studio and create a function to get this data. So here in this remote package, let's create a new interface called currency API. So this is how we will create our currency API interface. Here we are using the Retrofit library for fetching the data from that API. So here this is a get function. That's why we are using this get annotation. Here we can see this get annotation is coming from this Retrofit library. And here need to create the function using this suspend keyword. This suspend keyword is for coroutines. Here I have created this get latest rates function. Also I have created this companion object. Here I will keep this API key and this base URL. Right now I am keeping this API key here in this file because this is for learning purpose. But if you want to use in a app that will go in a production, you must keep your API key at some safer place. Let's go to that website and paste our API key here. So this is our API key. So let's copy this and paste it here. And what this base URL is, So let's go back to that website. So this is our request URL. So let's copy this request URL. So this part of that request URL is base URL, because this part will be same for every request we will make to that API through different endpoints. So here this is the endpoint. We need to get the latest exchange rates, because when we go back to the documentation, here we can see these are the different endpoints. When we go to the any other endpoint, so this is the part which will be same for every request, and only this part will be different because this is the endpoints. So in this way we define the base URL like this, and here we only need to provide the endpoint. So this is the endpoint, we will get the latest rates, and here we are using this query annotation because we need to provide the parameters to this endpoint. So one of the parameter was this compulsory API key. This is the name of that parameter. So let's assign this to our API key. So now the next thing, we need to see what this function will get in return. So for that, here we can see this is the data we will get in the return. So what we will do, we will copy all this data by pressing Ctrl A, Ctrl C. So on this remote package, let's click on it and let's go on the new, and this is the plugin I will use to convert that JSON data into a Kotlin data class. So if you don't have this plugin, you can simply go to that settings. You can go by pressing Ctrl Alt S, and here let's go to this plugin section. And if you don't have, then you can go to this marketplace, and here you can search for that JSON to Kotlin. This one is the that plugin, so you need to install this, and I think you also need to restart your Android Studio. So for now let's close this because I already have this plugin, and here let's go to this plugin, and here we need to provide the JSON data to this plugin. So let's paste. So this is the JSON data we need a data Kotlin data class for. So here we need to specify the name of that data class. So let's name it to currency DTO, and let's press it generate. So here we can see it has generated these two more classes. So one thing we also need to do here in this remote package, let's create one more package called DTO. DTO means data transfer object. So here let's keep both these files in this DTO package. So here we can see this is how we will get the data. First it will be this data, so let's rename it to simply data, and let's change it this file's name by pressing shift F6, and let's make it to currency data DTO. So like this, in here we will get the data of this data class. So this one is that date currency data DTO. So this is how we will get the those currency rates. So for now let's close this file, and here we need to assign the return of this function as currency DTO. So this is all for remote data. So let's minimize it. So now let's move on to this local database. First let's close this file also. Now for the local storage we will use the room library. For the room library we mainly need to define three files. First there will be an entity. Entity, you can think of it as an Excel sheet. So here we will keep our currency rate in this way. Like we will keep the code in the first column and the name in the second column and the rate in the third column. And after this entity, we need to define the DAO. DAO means data access object. So in this DAO, we need to define how we will interact from this database. So here we will define two functions like upsert function means add or update currency rates. Another function will be this get all currency rates. And in the third file we will define this database class. So in this database class here we need to define all our entities and all our DAOs. So let's go back to the Android Studio and create these files. So here first we need to create one more package called entity. So in this entity let's create file. So this is how we will define our entity. Here we need to annotate all our entity with this entity annotation. So Room will know that this is our entity. And here I have defined this code as a primary key. So this Room library will distinct every currency rate with this code because I have annotated it with primary key. So after this entity class, let's define our DAO. So here in this currency rate DAO interface, I have created these two functions. Here again we can see I have annotated it with DAO because Room should know this is our DAO. And first function is this upsert all. Here we can see this annotation by pressing Ctrl Q. So this annotation is saying that so if it is not already exist, it will insert. If it is already exist, then it will simply update its parameters. So both these things we can do with this upsert annotation. So here I will provide these currency rate list of currency rates. So Room will upsert into the local database. And another function is this get all currency rates. So here I have provided the query with this query annotations. This asterisk is for everything. Select everything from currency rate entity. So here we can see by pressing Ctrl B it will move us to this entity class. So here we are saying that we need to select everything from that entity. So it will return us a list of currency rates. And the third thing we need to define that database class. So here again I have annotated it with database annotation, and here we need to specify all our entities. So in our application there is only one entity, and this version it means because this is the first time we are creating this Room database, that's why I have provided its version to 1. If in the future I do any changes, then I need to update this version. And here we are extending this class to this Room database. So this is how we are saying this is our DAO. So this is all for that Room database. Now the next thing, let's move on to this domain package. First let's close all these files, and here in this domain packages we have two things. So why there is a model package in this domain package? because I will create a data class for this currency rate. So this is the data class I have created for that currency rate. Here you can see this is exactly similar to that currency rate entity. Why I have created this another data class? Because this data class will interact with the user interface. That presentation package should not know about that entity or that currency data DTO. That's why this data class will link between that presentation and that data package. And in the similar way, in this repository, we will create a function that will interact with the user interface. So in this repository package, I have created this currency repository interface. So this is the function we will use to get the currency rates in that presentation package. So what will be the return object of this function? We will get the flow and this coroutine flow, and here we will get the list of currency rates, this one. So this is the object we will get. So in getting the currency rates we can get the error, so we will create a resource wrapper class. So in that resource wrapper class we will save the data if this function successfully gets the data, or if this function gets some error, then we will save that error message in that resource class. So here in this model package, let's create one more class. So this is that resource wrapper class. So here I have provided this T because it can be of any type. So this resource class will hold the data if there is data, and if there is some message, error message, then it will hold that error message. So this resource sealed class will have two children. If we get the data successfully, then we will use this success class. If we failed in getting the data, then we will use this error class. So whatever data we will get, then we will provide it to that resource class. And here it is saying error, so let's remove this val keyword. And again this error class, if we get the message and data, then we will provide to this resource class. So let's close it. So let's return this object in a resource wrapper class. So this will be our function get currency rates list, and this will return this thing. Now let's go to this repository package in that data package, and here let's create the implementation of this repository interface. So here I have created this currency repository implementation class, and we will access those currency API and currency rate DAO. Here I have extend this class from that currency repository interface. So it is complaining that we need to implement those functions. So let's press Ctrl I and here OK. So this will be our function we need to implement. So here let's use the flow. So in this flow block we will write our logic. So here first let's create a private function. So here this is the function I have created. This function will get the local currency rates from that DAO. Here this function will return the list of that currency rate. This is the data class which I had provided in that domain package. Here this function is complaining. It is complaining that we need to require the list of currency rate, that data class which we provided in that domain package. But this DAO function is returning the currency rate entity, that entity which we provided in that local database package. So what we need to do, we need to create a mapper function which will convert this currency rate entity into that currency rate. So let's go back to this local package, and in this entity package let's create one more file, currency rate mapper. So here I have created this extension function that will take the currency rate entity and convert into currency rate data class. So here we are just returning the currency rate data class and all these values from that currency rate entity. In the similar way, let's create one more mapper function which will convert the currency rate into currency rate entity. So let's copy this function and paste it here. So this function will return the currency rate entity. And again let's use that currency rate entity, and this extension function we will use on that currency rate data class. So this is the function which we will use to map the currency rate to the currency rate entity. So let's go back to that implementation. So here what we will do, whatever will be the list we will get from that DAO, we will map that list, and here we will map every item to currency rate. This function we will call. So here first let's use this function. Here what we are doing, we are getting those currency rates from the local database and we are emitting the success case, and after this we will use the try catch block to get the data from the remote API. So here in this try catch block we will get the data from the remote API. So let's create one more function. And we are accessing that get latest rates function from that currency API. So again this is complaining. We again need to require this list of currency rates, but we have currency DTO. So again we need to create a mapper function that will map the result from that currency DTO into that current list of currency rates. First let's minimize this local package and let's go to this remote package, and in the DTO let's create one more class for that currency DTO mapper. So here this is how we will create the currency DTO mapper function. Here I have created this two currency rates extension function on this currency DTO data class. This function will return the currency rates list. So first we will get the currency data let's open this currency DTO also. So this currency DTO will consist data value in that currency data DTO. So let's open this one also. So here we can see that API will give us the result in this way, but we need the result like this. We need first the code and that name and then the rate of that currency. What we need to do, we need to create the list of all these currencies. So here what I will do, I will paste all the values from the GitHub repository. You can do so. So let's paste all the other values like this. So this one is giving us error. So let's change this value from, let's go back to this currency DTO. So here we can see this USD value is int. So let's make it to double. So now let's go back to that mapper. So here we can see this not giving error anymore. So this is how we will map all the currency rates in that list of currency rates. So let's close all these files, and in this currency repository implementation, now whatever will be the response, we will map it to currency rates. So here this two currency rates will convert the response into this list of currency rates. So let's use this function here. So in this try block, first we will get the rates from the remote API and we will emit the success case. And before emitting the success case, we need to update the local database also every time. So for that, again let's create one more function here which will update the local database. So here in this function we are using that upsert all function through this DAO, and then we are providing the list of currency rate. This is complaining that upsert function needs the list of currency rates entity. So what we will do, again we will use the map function and we will map every object into to currency rate entity. We will use this extension function which we created in that mapper class. So let's press Ctrl B. So this is the function we will use to map. So here let's use this update. So now next thing we will catch the exceptions. First we will catch one specific exception, that is IO exception. Here we will emit the error case. So here if we get the error, then what we will do, we will provide this message and provide the data of that local currency rates, because we have failed to get the currency rates from the remote API. So again let's put one more catch block which will catch the general exception. So here let's provide different message. So this is all we will do in this currency repository implementation. So let's minimize these imports and close these files. Let's minimize these two packages, data package and this domain package. And now we will work in this presentation package. So first thing we will see what are the state and events. So states are all the values which can change during the usage of app. So what are these values in our app? So first let's go to the design. So in our app we can see the value of this from currency and this to currency value. These two values will change during the usage of app. So these two things are states, and likewise this from currency code and this to currency code, these will also change when the user will select the different currency. So these two things are also state, and which currency value is selected, this is also a state. So these values are called states. Now another thing is events. So what is event? Events are all the actions user can do. So what are those actions user can do? User can click on this from currency code to change this from currency code value. User can also click on this swap buttons to swap between these cards. User can also click on this to currency code, so this one is also an event, and user can click on these number buttons, so these are all events. So what we will do, we will create a separate class for all the states and all the events, and then we will manage these things in the view model. So here in this main screen package, let's create one more file. Here I have created this main screen state data class. So these all will be our states, and also I have provided the initial value to all these states. Since we need to keep the state of that selection, so here I have created this selection state enum class. So there will be two values we can keep in this selection state, that will be from and to. Initially I have assigned it to from selection state, and after this here we will keep all our currency rates in a map. So in that map the key will be the currency code, which will be of string type, and then there will be the value in the form of currency rate data class. Initially it will be of empty map. Now in the similar way, let's create one more sealed class where we will keep all our events. Here I have created this main screen event to keep all the events. So here I have used object for some events and data class for some events. Because if we want some value with the user's action, then we use data class, otherwise we use object. Because when the user will click on any number, then we also need to know which number user has clicked. Like this we will get the value of that number. Likewise, when the user will select any of the bottom sheet item, then we also need to know which item user has clicked. That's why I have used this data class. In these three cases, we don't need to know any value, because if user has selected that from currency, then we know that user had selected that. We don't need any extra value. That's why I have used this object. Now let's go to our main screen and pass these two things here. Here in this way I have provided these two things in our main screen. So now let's attach all these states with their corresponding values. This from currency code, let's attach the state, that state dot from currency code, like this. Again here we need to assign the state of that from currency value, and this currency name we will get from that currency list map. So in this way we will get the currency name. First I have taken this currency rates map from that state and I have provided this key of two currency code, and we will get the name from that. And if we get some null value, then we will just say give us the empty string to that currency name. In the similar way, let's copy it and paste this value to this from currency code, and here let's change this to from currency code. Now the next thing, we will attach all these events from their click listeners. Here on this swap icon, let's attach that event. Let's copy this, and here above on this text let's attach that clickable functionality with the help of modifier.clickable from currency selected. In the similar way, let's copy this modifier and paste it into this to currency, and let's change the event from to currency select, and in that vertical grid on that number click, let's attach that. Here we will provide the key, whatever key user has selected into this event. Now the next thing, we need to manage these events and states. So for managing these events and states, we need to create a view model. So in this main screen package, let's create a new file for that main screen view model. Let's extend this from that view model, so it should know that this is our view model, and here we will access that repository interface. And now let's initialize both that thing. First state. So here it is giving error, so we need to import the get value and that set value. Now we can see these two values has been imported, and also we can see we have initialized with the default values. And also let's create one function where we will manage all our events like this. Here we will use the when block. So in this when block, here let's press alt enter and let's say add remaining branches. Now the next thing, let's collect those currency rates here in this view model. So here let's create one more function. So here I have created this get currency rates list function. Here we will use view model scope because we are in the view model. So it will launch the coroutines, and then with the life cycle of that view model, it will call this get currency rates function from that repository. And since we are using that flow, we will collect the latest value. Here we will get the result. So let's use the when block and let's press alt enter and add remaining branches. So here we will get two cases, success and error. So in both cases we just update our states. So in the success case we will update our state like this. So we use this copy function and we will update these values. So this currency rates, this is a map, but we are getting this list of that currency rates. So what we will do, so we already have this list of currency rate like this. We just need to provide this key also. So what we will do, whatever will be the code of that currency rate, so we will give the key to that map. Here we will use associated by function, this function. So here we will say it dot code. So whatever will be the code we will give as a key of that map. If we get null value, then we will just provide the empty map. So let's copy this and paste it here also. And if we get the error, again we will update our currency rate list, because we can get the data from that local database, and we will also get the message. So what we will do, we will update that error state with that message. So here it is saying that we can lift out that state from that when block. So in this way, this will be our get currency list functions. Here we can see this function is not calling from anywhere, because in our UI there is no button to call this function. So what we will do, we will use the init block and we will call this function here. So whenever this view model will create, this get currency rates list function will get called automatically. So here in these events, let's also update our states. So first, in this from currency selected, we will just update the state like this. And when user will click on this swipe icon, then we will update few states. So here what we are doing, we are just swapping these values from 2. When the user will click on these number buttons, so what we will do, we will update those currency values. So here we need to create a function called update currency value. Here I have created this update currency value function. So first we will save this current currency value like this with the help of this when block. So whatever will be the value in that state, we will save in this current currency value. And here like this we will get those currency rates. We will get that currency rates map from our state, and we will provide that from currency value as a key, and we will get the rate. If we get any null value, then we just need to use this 0.0, and in the similar way we will get the currency rate of this 2. and this is how we will update the state of that currency value. If the user has click on this C button, means it user wants to clear the value, then we will update the value to 0.00. And if any of the number key has been used, and here we are using this if else block. So if the current currency value is already 0.0, then we will provide the new number value, whatever number user has provided. And if we have any other value than 0.0, then we will append that value from that current currency value. Like we already have 12, then the new number user has clicked 5, then it will be 125. So here finally we will convert the currency values with the help of this when block. So if the current selection is from, then what we will do, first we will take the from value. First let's rename it to updated currency value. Here right now this is in a string, so first we will convert this string into double value. And now we need to get the value of that two value. So with the help of that from value, this is how we will convert the currency into the two value. So we will take the from currency rate and divide and it multiply it to two currency rate. Now here let's update these two values. So here right now this two value is in double, so we need to update this value in a string. So for that we will use the number format. So with the help of this decimal format class, so here I have provided the pattern. So this is the pattern. So there will be a some number and then dot then 00. So let's use this number format here and format our two value. And in the similar way, if the selection state is 2, then we will change these values accordingly. So like this is our whole function where we will update the value of that currency. So we will call this function whenever user will click any number. So here let's call that function update currency value, and here let's provide the value whatever we will get from that. So this is all the code for that view model. So let's first minimize this and close all these files. Now if I try to run our app, then it will not run because still there are few things we need to sort out. First, let's go to this data package and here in this repository implementation. Here we can see we are creating these two objects of these classes, but our application doesn't know how to create the object of this currency API. Let's press Ctrl B. So our application right now doesn't know how to create the object of this currency API, and we are still accessing this object. So what we will do, we will create the object of this currency API. So here comes the role of that dependency injection library, Dagger-hilt. Right now we can see this currency repository implementation class is dependent on these two classes. So this is called dependency injection. So here we will inject the dependencies. Let's minimize this data package, and here in this CoinSwap package let's create one more package, DI, dependency injection. Here we will create app module where we will create all our objects of classes. Here this app module I have annotated it with two annotation. We can see this module annotation is also coming from the Dagger library. So here we are telling this Dagger-hilt that this is our app module where you need to look for creating the objects, and we also need to annotate it with install in annotation. Here I have used this singleton component. So first let's create the object of that currency API. So this is how I will create the object of that currency API. First I have annotated this function with this provides annotation. With the help of this provide annotation, now Dagger knows that this is a provide function and it needs to provide an object. So here we are using this singleton annotation. Now with the help of this singleton annotation, now every time we will be needing the object of this currency API, so it will create one object and it will reuse every time that single object. So here we are returning this currency API because we need the object of this currency API class. Since this currency API is using Retrofit, so I have used this Retrofit builder to create an object. Here I have provided the base URL which I saved in that currency API interface, and here I am using this JSON converter factory. So this converter factory will get the data from that JSON into a Kotlin class. Here I have used this create function to create the object of this currency API. Now the next thing, we need to create an object of this DAO, but this DAO is dependent on that currency database. So let's open that currency database. We will create an object of this currency database and we will provide the DAO to that class. So again here in this module, let's create one more provide function. So this is how we will create the object of that room database. Here I am using this room class. Here first we need to provide the application context, but from where this application context will come, so we will look into this later. Next thing, we need to provide that which one is this data class and the name of that database. So here this is how we will create the object of that database. Now from this currency repository implementation, the data is going forward into that view model. So let's go to that view model. So again we can see we are using an object of this repository interface, but still it doesn't know how to create an object. We will inject through the constructor. So here I will use the annotation inject and let's say constructor keyword. So with the help of this inject constructor, it will create the object of this interface itself. Now the next thing is this view model is accessing the data from that currency repository. Let's press Ctrl B. Here we can see from this interface. But what we have did, we have actually created an implementation of this interface. But this view model doesn't know that there is an implementation and the data will come eventually from that implementation. this thing we need to provide in that module. So again, let's go to that module, app module. So here, so again we will create a provide function for that thing. So this is our provide function. So here we are saying that this currency repository, there is a currency repository implementation. But this currency repository implementation needs these objects. We already have created the object of this API here. So what we will do, we will get the object through the parameter like this, and I will provide this parameter like this. And also that DAO, we already have created the object of this database. First let's access the object of that database, and from that database I will provide that DAO like this. So this is all the code for this app module for creating these objects. So here we can see this room database builder needs application context, but it doesn't know how to create this application context. So for this thing, let's go to this CoinSwap. So here let's create one more class. Let's extend it to application class, and let's annotate it with hilt Android app. With the help of this annotation, it can create the object of this whole application class. If in your application, if you don't need this application context in creating any of this object, but still you need to create this application class, because this is a must class if you are using Dagger-hilt, because that Dagger-hilt will need that application context at so many places. Now the next thing is this, that we need to provide this application class in our manifest also. So let's go to that manifest, and here let's say name CoinSwap application, and let's also add that internet permission because our app will need the internet. So let's close this file, and also this file, this one also, and this one also. Now the next thing is this, let's go to the main activity, and we also need to annotate this class with Android entry point, because this is the Android specific class. So here it is giving error. We need to assign the state and also that events. So here let's create the object of that view model. So now we need to create the object of this view model also. But this is very easy since we are using that Dagger-hilt. We just need to annotate this view model with hilt view model. This. And now it can create the object itself. Let's provide the hilt view model. This. Now this main screen needs state, so we will provide the state we initialized in that view model, and also that event function like this. Now we can run our app and see if our app is working or not. So here our app has run, so let's try to type some value here. So now we can see we didn't get the currency rates in our state. That's why it is showing this thing. And also let's see few more things we need to change. First, I will provide the error functionality, that if this app gets an error, then it should show the toast. And second thing is that when we click on this value, we can see there is some clickable effect, but we don't need this clickable effect. So what we will do, we will remove this clickable effect, And the third thing is when the value is selected, then it should be in primary color. So let's do these three things. So let's minimize this and let's go to this main screen. So here first let's implement that error functionality. So this is how we will show the error. We are using this launched effect. So this launched effect will trigger every time this error state will change. So here we are checking if this error state is not null, it means we have some error. So what we will do, we will show this toast. So this is how we will get the context of current screen. And for that clickable effect, let's go to these text. So this is how we remove the clickable effect. So here this on click I have provided this event. So let's copy this whole modifier and paste it to the second text, this one. And let's change the event from to. And the next thing, we need to change the color of this text also. So for that, here let's use color parameter. So this is how, with the help of this if else condition, we will check if the selection is true, then we will provide the primary color, otherwise on surface. So let's copy this and paste it here also. Here we only need to change the if the selection is from. So now we have made all these three changes. So now again we can run our app. So here we can see the toast of that oops, something went wrong. It means we have made some mistake in the currency API class. First let me check and then I will go through it. So I looked into the code and I solved that error. So what I did, first I went to that repository implementation. Here we are getting the errors. So what we will do, we will add this exception also with this custom message. So here after this, let's attach that exception e.message like this. So now let's run our app again. So here we can see our toast is showing HTTP 401 message. That HTTP 401 message is for unauthorized. So for that I looked into that code. So here in our currency API, so this is the problem. Like so here I have used this K as a capital letter, but this query is saying that it should be in small letter. So this whole API key or everything should be in small letters. So this was all the problem. So now we can run our app and see. So here we can see now there is no such error. Now let's see how our app is working. First let's minimize this and close these files. Now let's type 600 here. Again this is giving us infinity. It means there is some error in calculating that value. And also let's see if this swap is working or not. So let's swap. and here we can see this has swapped both these cards, so this is working. And also let's click here and let's see, click on this C, so it will make the 0 0. Okay, so the problem is here. Here I am getting this currency rate, and also I need to provide the key as a currency from currency code, this one. So this was the mistake. Now let's run our app again. So here, now let's try to type 500. So here it is giving 6.10, and if I type here 2500, first let's make it 02500. Again this is not working as expected, so let's look into the code again. Let's minimize this. So here I have made the mistake. Here it should be first current selection is 2, so we need to update the 2 currency value, this, and here from currency value, like this. Now let's run our app again. Now let's try to type again 500, so we can see it is working. So here we can see our app is working as expected, and also if we turn on the dark mode, so here we can see this CoinSwap text is not as expected because it should be that white color. But if we open again this app in the dark mode, so here we can see it has changed. But this thing we can correct by going to that main activity. So here let's wrap this main screen in the surface composable function. Now this surface will help in adapting the colors. So let's run our app again. So now if I turn off the dark mode, so here we can see it has changed the all the colors in the light mode. Again let's turn on the dark mode, and again we can see it has changed the colors accordingly. Now the last thing, we need to implement that bottom sheet. When the user will click on this icon, so that bottom sheet should open. So for that let's minimize this, and here let's go to the main screen. So first here let's create few variables. So here I have created these three variables. First one is this for coroutine scope. Here we will use the coroutines. That's why I have created this scope. And next this is the state of that bottom sheet. So this is giving error. So let's opt in this experimental annotation here. And the next thing is this bottom sheet state. So we will manage this bottom sheet state in our composable locally. So this is how we will create the state. So here right now this remember function is giving error. It needs that set value and get value. So let's open these imports, and here let's import those values. Here it should be where. So here we will say if this should bottom sheet show state is true, then we will only show the model bottom sheet. So with this model bottom sheet, there is this on dismiss request. So this on dismiss request means when user clicks outside the bottom sheet, it means user wants to close the bottom sheet. So here we will say should bottom sheet show to false again. So let's scroll down and look to that on drop down icon clicked. Here we will say two things. First, this should bottom sheet should be true. It means that when user click on this icon, then that bottom sheet should open. One thing is also that if user clicks on this from currency card, then we will also change the state of selection. Here let's call that event like this. And in the similar way, let's copy this and let's scroll down and let's change this to currency selected. Now this is how we are managing this state locally. First let's provide that sheet state and that content we will pass in the parameter. First let's create the drag handle content. So first let's see the design. So this is the design of our bottom sheet. So this above part is that drag handle. So here in this drag handle, first let's create a column layout. So this is how our drag handle content will be. First I have taken this column layout and it will take the maximum width of the phone screen, and first we will provide that handle with the help of this bottom sheet defaults, and then there will be a heading for the there will be some space with the help of this spacer, and there will be a single line with the help of this divider. Now let's create this bottom sheet content. So let's go to this main screen and here let's create one more file. So this is how our bottom sheet content will be. So here we will provide this currency list to this bottom sheet content, and also we will access this clickable functionality through the parameter. Here I have used this lazy column because there is a list of many items. So here I have provided this whole currency list, and here I have used this box. In that box there will be a text. So now let's use this bottom sheet content in our screen. So here I have used this bottom sheet content. First this currency, it needs currency list. So here we are taking that currency rates map and we are taking the values from that map and converting it to list. And second thing is this, when user click on any item, then we will get the currency code. And let's go back to that bottom sheet content, and here we need to provide the code, not the name. So here we will get the code and we will pass it into the event. So why I have write this so much code? Why not only this should bottom sheet to false? Because here it says that if you are closing the bottom sheet other than this on dismiss request, it means you first we need to hide this bottom sheet like this in this coroutine scope, and then when this thing will get complete, then we will invoke this on completion. If this sheet state dot is visible is false, it means it has not visible, then we will change this should bottom sheet value to false. So like this is the all code for bottom sheet. And one more thing, let's go to that view model. Here let's manage this bottom sheet item clicked also. So like this, first we will check if the current selection is this from, then we will update the from currency code. And if the selection is true, then we will update the to currency code. And here if user has selected any different currency, then we need to update the currency value accordingly to that currency. So that's all. Now we can run our app and see this change. So here is our app. So let's click on this drop down icon and we can see our bottom sheet has opened. So let's select this Romanian leu. So this has updated the value of that Romanian leu. So let's type 12, then it will convert it into that USD. Now let's here select the value Japanese yen, and this has changed to Japanese yen. So we can see our app is working totally fine. So this was all the coding. So if you have any query, you can ask in the comment section. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.